Alright, welcome back to Dinopedia entry number 27, the Kentrosaurus. Remember to like if you like and subscribe down below for more videos. And have a happy Black Friday and hope you guys had a happy Thanksgiving yesterday. Alright, so of course, as usual, we're going to be looking at the Ark Survival Kentrosaurus, tips and tricks for the Ark Survival Kentro, look at potential add-ons for Ark Survival Ascended, and reworking for my new game Dino World. Let's get into it. So the Kentrosaurus in Ark Survival is an animal and it's a reptile, so it goes in Kingdom Animalia, which is the kingdom for animals, and the group Reptilian for lizards, frogs, snakes, crocodiles, etc. And of course, description is a spiked tail, similar to the Stegosaurus. It has a spiky tail that it uses for combat. So the traits of a Kentrosaurus is that it's very aggressive. It will not attack wild herbivores, but will attack players and tamed dinos. So of course, if you are walking around it, not only will it run away from larger carnivores and attack similar sized ones like Carnotauruses and Compies and Raptors, but if you're walking it near it, even with like a Parasaur or a Trike, it will attack you. So you're going to have to stay away from them even if you do have a tamed dino, because, I mean, it definitely won't attack you if you're riding like a Rex or a Giga, but if you're riding a Carno down to a Parasaur, down to a Raptor or Dilo, I mean, it's going to attack you. So even if you are just walking by it, it'll attack you and it'll attack your tames as well. So be wary. The Kentrosaurus in Ark Survival has similar stats to the Stegosaurus, even though it is smaller. It has a health of 650, stamina 300, oxygen 150, food and water 6,000 each, melee 500, weight 500, melee 10. Its bite attack does 10 base damage, and its spiky tail attack does 42 damage, plus an extra bleeding effect. It also has a walking speed of 3 meters per second, a swimming speed of 1.5 meters per second, and a torpor of 500. The Kentrosaurus can act as a guard dog. It possesses a bleeding, armor-piercing tail attack, which is devastating alongside their terrifying pack bonus, which resembles an Allosaurus or Compi pack, and how much damage it adds due to its pack buff multiplier. So be wary, because not only does it ignore your armor, but it also gives you bleeding. And if it is a pack of 3 to 5 Kentrosauruses in tandem, then its damage could be doubled, similar to an Allosaurus damage buff and a Compi damage buff. So very effective as a guard dog for a base, but also be very careful when attacking them in a wild if they're in a pack. Secondly, Impaler. Its tail spikes will impale smaller creatures and players on it, allowing it to throw them backward. So basically, you'll get stuck to its tail as the spikes impale themselves into you, giving you not only a bleeding effect, but also you will be stuck on their tail, allowing them to mash you around before throwing you off the tail when they whip it. So be wary when it attacks you, because if it does do like its normal bite attack, you may be fine, but if it tail attacks you, it may be able to KO you literally without any protection. So, and it doesn't matter what armor, because of course it's an armor piercing attack. Some tricks: smaller the better. Having similar stats to a Stego, their smaller size allows them to be moved and used more creatively in battle, and allows the player to move items quicker when using them. They have a faster walking speed, they have the similar health stats, so not a problem, and also they have their devastating tail attack. So they may be better at breeding higher amounts of them than Stegosauruses, because they of course have similar stats, but better stats when it comes to movement. And of course, Genesis Brutes. So for Alpha Genesis Brutes, the Kentro pack buff has a reflection ability, which reflects incoming damages onto their attackers, meaning if you create a big enough pack of them to attack an Alpha Genesis Brute, you can sit and watch as the Brute basically kills itself by dealing some of its attack damage to itself via the reflection pack bonus of the Kentrosaurus pack buff. So basically, let's say the Alpha Genesis Brute does 100 damage to a Kentrosaur. A Kentrosaur under a pack buff would deal 30 of that damage to the Brute. So the Brute would only deal 70 damage, and 30 of that damage would be reflected back onto the Genesis Brute. So it's actually just killing itself slowly by, dealing more and more damage to itself than the group pack of Kentrosauruses. Obviously, you'll lose a couple of them, obviously, because it's an Alpha Genesis Brute, but it'll eventually kill itself before it kills your entire pack. So it's a Kentrosaurus pack buff is a good way to kill Alpha Genesis Brutes if you need to just farm them. Some potential add-ons I'd like to see for Ark Survival Ascended. Stat nerf, slightly nerfing the stats of the Kentro Deflect its smaller size stature to the Stego. Nothing related to its attack damage. I'm not terribly affected by how much damage it does, considering that it is supposed to be a territorial aggressive mount. So I'm not talking about decreasing its damage, but definitely decreasing its health, stamina, and weight to not be almost exactly like the Stego, because the Kentro is basically half the size of a Stego, so it shouldn't have the same amount of health, stamina, and weight as one. It should have like half the size of a Stego. And also, it should have a wandering mode. So the pack, you should be able to place a Kentro pack on wander to make them passively guard your base, attacking any pesky dinos or players that they come onto. I mean, you can do it with raptors. I mean, I feel like you should also do it with Kentros, because they basically are just a smaller size alpha pack of raptors. So they do more damage than it. They basically are they're like the middle ground between a full raptor pack and a pack of 3 allos. Like, they're basically the middle ground between raptor pack and an allosaurus pack. So I feel like you should put them on wandering guard. I know you can't do it to an allo pack, but you should definitely be able to do it to a Kentro pack, because they're not as devastating as an allosaurus pack, but they're definitely somewhat devastating enough to be able to be similar to the raptor pack, where they can passively guard your base. Alright, so looking at the Ark Survival Kentrosaurus to the Jurassic World Kentro, I do like the side spikes on the Jurassic World Kentro, this little side spike here. I do like this detail. Both of them look very similar, even though the Ark one looks a little bit better because I do like how long the spikes are on the back. I do like the Ark one a little bit more, but I do like this side spike. This side spike right here is definitely, like, if you want to argue to me that the Jurassic World one is better, I mean, I will accept your argument, and I'll say, like, it's valid because it does look pretty cool, but I'm just saying, like, I do like the longer spikes on the Ark one a little bit more. And similar to ours is basically just straight up basically just using the Isle version of the Kentrosaurus, which looks a little bit more derpy, but also it's very simpler. I just like the pattern on the spikes. And even though ours is not going to be a direct ripoff, because obviously copyright, but like, it's basically going to have the same pattern. It's going to look a little bit more derpy compared to the Ark one, so the Ark one definitely wins the contest here. But I do like the pattern on the spikes here. I do like this pattern on the spikes. So looking at the Kentrosaurus in Dino World, obviously its name is Kentro because we shorten it from Kentrosaurus to Kentro, because all the dino names are shortened if we can. And there's two types. There's the normal wild and tamed dino variant of the Kentro, and the mutated Kentro with a product of 2 tamed Kentros mating, breeding, and laying an egg, plus a gene computer for mutations. Looking at the Kentro, obviously it is a animal still. It is in the Kingdom Animalia, group Reptilian as always. It is still an dinosaur ancestral lizard. Class duckbill, obviously it has a duckbill-like snout, but it is in the family of battle-tailed mounts, which does include the bigger Stegosaurus with the Kentro. So of course the Dino World stats compared to the Ark stats are dialed down because I believe that they should be at least halved, and not even that. Some of these stats are even thirds, because the Kentro is a lot smaller than the Stego in real life. It's like a third the size of a Stego. So like, it's not exactly a third, but it's also way more than just a half size. So, I mean, you got to do something. You got to lower the stats in some regard. So as I've done, the health is 400 instead of 650. Stamina is third, 100 instead of 300. Food and water is again third of 2,000 and 2,000 of 6,000 each. Weight, of course, is 200 instead of 500, so a little bit less than half. And of course, the melee damage has been kept basically the same, just making it a little bit less from 40 for the tail attack, from 40 instead of 42. And swimming speed has been buffed a little bit to 2 meters per second instead of 1.5 meters per second, with a torpor of 200, similar to the weight stat, 500 to 200, with a fortitude of 1. So of course, additional traits I'd like to see added to Dino World: secondary bleeding tail attack, still making it so that the bleeding attack has impaling spikes and enforces a bleeding effect with the tail attack, just like Ark Survival Ascended. But also there are dual modes. So the Kentrosaurus has plates on the front of its back, but spikes on the end and its tail. So I think there should be 2 different modes, similar to how the Stegosaurus has 3 different modes in Arc. It should have defensive plates, regenerative armor while defending the player, so when it's in defensive mode, it has defensive plates, but when it's in offense mode, it has offensive spikes. Spikes deal increased bleeding with increased impaling damage with increased attack speed. Basically, an offensive damage dealer. And then finally, it has Wandering Guardian. You can set a pack of Kentros on alert so that they can basically wander your base and passively guard it. But they also have a combat ability called Spiky Reflection, which does the reflective Kentro pack bonus. And this Spiky Reflection damage basically reflects damage back onto its attackers, similar to how we talked about how there was an Alpha Genesis Brute, where it does 100 damage but takes 30 of that damage and only deals 70. Similar to that, it does that Spiky Reflection damage for a limited time with a 30-second cooldown. So of course, the last thing we're going to talk about is the Dino World spawns in the main map of Europa. Of course, the colors are blue for guaranteed, green for very likely, yellow for likely, orange for rare, red for very low, and purple for dead. Alright, so of course, if we look at the spawn rates, the only place that you're very likely to find them are on Cliffside Plateaus. Think of it as a high-level cliff, but it has a flat piece of land on it, so it's only going to be found on these Cliffside Plateaus. So it's not really a biome thing, because you can find these in the Volcanic Bay area, this taiga, snowy mountains, central plains, and jungle area, but only in specific areas. So of course, you're only going to find them very likely on these Cliffside Plateaus, and that is it. Alright, so that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you like it. Comment down below your thoughts. Everyone have a blessed day as always. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving yesterday and a happy Black Friday shopping for today. Remember, Cyber Monday is happening next week and Christmas is coming. Have a blessed day, and of course, as always, toodaloo.